Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending the extraordinary meeting of Planning and Licensing, 30th October. Duncan, do we have any apologies?
We have no apologies this evening.
Excellent, because I think we do have an apology from Frances. Chancellor, she did say she wasn't going to be able to come, yes, and I assume Margaret is still swanning around in the high seas.
I can record Margaret's apology, certainly. That was for the last meeting, in fact. But I can record Margaret's apology because this is the last meeting.
Frances did say, maybe just to us. So we'll record her apologies as well.
Right. So we'll record Frances. And I believe that Councillor Morris has to leave at
yes, well, very good to see our substitute coming along. That's all right. Well, we will probably still be going at 8 o'clock. I hate to tell you this. Okay, has anybody got any immediate interest that they need to talk about? Otherwise, on an as and when basis. Minutes. We've got the minutes again for the 9th of October. Has everybody read them? Yeah, anybody got you're going to propose?
I'll propose the minutes.
Second, a show of hands to accept the minutes. Thank you very much. You abstaining? Okay, fair enough. A couple of abstentions. Is there any matters arising from it? Okay. Public question time. We are expecting some members of the public, but they haven't arrived yet. So what I shall suggest we do is we carry on, and if and when they come, we will start public questions at that stage. Active consultations. We have some. The one we were looking at, the one we have to look at is the 20-mile-an-hour limit, which I sent something round today. There seems to be a distinct lack of interest in this 20-mile-an-hour limit. The public seem quite interested in it, but the councillors...
I wrote something.
Yeah, you wrote something. Can you remember what it was you wrote?
I mean, from looking at it, the 20 miles an hour is in all the residential areas. What was 40 miles an hour is staying at 40 miles an hour, and the main roads coming in, Henry Road and so on, are still staying at 30. So... I really didn't have a problem with it, but the maps that they showed where it was going to apply, they had anomalies, like little cul-de-sacs, like off at the bottom of Alexandra Road, which would then be still at 30 miles an hour, which seemed a bit lack of paper, poor mapping. And Nance Ledden didn't have anything at all, so I'm not sure why Nance Ledden...
I've made inquiries about that, and it seems to be that the roads aren't adopted, and neither are Goldings, and they are not intending to adopt the estate roads, so the repairs of those roads are going to be the responsibility of the management company of the estates, which is why there is nothing in Nance Ledden.
The other thing was, of course, the main road going down from Nance Ledden from the roundabout that's going to be going over the new bridge and up to Hendra is labelled as a major through road for Newquay, but it's got, if you drive on that road, there's an island in the middle of it. It's got no double yellow lines. There's parking all over the place, and I regularly go down that road at least once a week. The road between the two roundabouts, the one with the obelisk going down.
Yeah, it's a Pendragon.
Okay, yes, that one. And there's an island which is outside the Methodist hub, and there's no and cars park, and we've had to squeeze. You squeeze through that as a car. So I'm not sure how that's going to cope with articulated lorries going through that. Their directions of it.
But that, sorry to interrupt you, but that isn't an issue for the 20-mile-an-hour limit.
But it's on the road. It was all part of the road labelling on there, on that document.
In what sense? I mean, the fact that it's not wide enough is not something for us to...
The documents, though, show what are going to be through roads and everything as major routes as well.
I mean, I'm surprised that the school isn't 20 miles an hour limit. That's going to be 30, which I think my biggest problem with it is that they have completely missed out most of Porth and Whipsted area.
Yeah.
And I do think they missed an opportunity, and certainly in our comments I would like to come back and say, really, they need to look at that Whipsted area Cliff Road and reduce it to 20. because it's a good opportunity. The risk, the road is at risk, the cliffs are unstable. It's a good opportunity. I mean, they may totally take no notice of us whatsoever, but that would be one comment I would make. I mean, talking to residents, I mean, mainly I've talked to people in Pentar, and they're basically saying, well, because of all the parking bays and the parked cars, in a minute, I know it really isn't going to make much difference. It is difficult on Pentar, and I imagine it's true of most residential areas as well. It's actually difficult to go above 20 miles an hour because there's this natural, and their response was, isn't this a complete waste of money? And it hasn't worked in Wales. And interestingly, someone was there who came from Wales, and he said, well, the reason it didn't work in Wales is because they failed to enforce it. And that's why they're withdrawing it, because it's never been enforced. So,
for all those villages.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. You probably want to say something about taxes, do you? I was going to ask John about taxes as well.
I'm sure you've, I know that there's been an email go to Duncan from the chair of the Taxi Association. They are up in arms. They are absolutely fuming.
Forgive me, why would you send it to Duncan?
Because
surely they should be making their own.
He put it to Duncan first because he didn't know where to send it, and I wasn't 100% sure either. So he asked me, and I told him to send it to Duncan, and Duncan could send out where he needed to. So no, they're absolutely up in arms, and they've said that how on earth is that going to benefit the environment? Because at 20 mile an hour, you're in a lower gear, which means you're kicking out more carbon dioxide.
And the other people who don't like it are the emergency services, because they're saying that because their speed is related to the limit. And in some cases, they aren't allowed to go faster than the limit, and occasionally they're allowed to go 50% higher, and which means their speed will be cut from 45 to 30 in a 20 mile an hour limit. So I'm not, but I think they should be making the taxi drivers and the emergency service should be making their own representations. Katie.
I disagree with that, but I would say that I think we could be seconding those messages, and you've drafted that very helpfully. Thank you. I don't think it's inappropriate for us to say, whilst they may make their own representation, we share their concerns too. And you know, if we note their concerns and think they're worth taking into consideration, essentially, because especially the emergency one does really. I mean, when I look at the map, it's really more sort of side streets mostly, but some of them, there's, you know, if it's 2 a.m. and there's nobody there, and you're trying to deal with someone with a heart attack or a stroke or something, you just want to get in and out rather than.
To me, you argue the main roads are still at 30 miles an hour. No. And with all the on-site parking going through the housing estates, and when housing estates should be, 20 anyway, then, a fire engine is going to struggle to be getting at, 45 miles an hour through a housing estate, in my mind. And the same for taxis as well. For an awful lot of residential parking in town, then, you'd struggle for an awful lot of 30 miles an hour. And a lot of the 20 is actually really about safety. I think if you've seen anything come off the front of a vehicle, and I have, then actually the slower the vehicle, the better. So, we're not in a position to argue against safety data. If you've got a child and it comes off the bonnet of a car, that 10 miles an hour difference can mean a huge difference to the outcome.
That's true, but of course we don't have any data about how many accidents we actually have with so I mean, I don't think, the public response I've had is they're not fussed, but they think it's a waste of time and it's expensive. I do think we ought to make something on the representations of the on Whipster Dairy, saying they need to look at that. I think you're right. We can pass the message that we're getting these messages from the taxi drivers and from. We're not experts, but we can summarise that and pass them on. I don't think it's going to make any difference. No. The one thing, can I just, before you go, the one thing when I originally saw this, I was concerned that the ring road that goes down Tower Road and then swings around Manor Road was a 20. But since then, people have been making representations to me saying, well, look, we have a real problem with boy racers going around that route, and we want the 20-mile-an-hour limit. So I think it's so I'm backing off that. I'm saying, okay, if that's what residents in that area say, they really, really want the 20-mile-an-hour limit, but they really, really want someone to enforce it.
Yeah.
And that is probably the major criticism that people have been giving me. Nick.
The bugbears that we're talking about, as you said, the Tower Road one is a nightmare for us. We don't like the idea of that. Alexandra Road, why is it needed? It's got speed humps on it. There are speed humps on Alexandra Road at the bottom.
I think that once they introduce the 25-mile limit, and as the speed humps deteriorate, they just don't get replaced. So effectively, where we have got traffic calming, it will eventually wear out and they just won't replace it, because you don't have 20-mile-an-hour limit in traffic calming. Yeah. So we've got traffic calming, but you're looking absolutely horrified. And
the other one that we're looking at, the other one they were saying is Pentower Avenue. I thought they said they would keep the main roads. That's the main road in Pentower.
It's still at 30.
It's not, it's going to 20.
No, it isn't.
They told me that it's going to 20.
Pentower Road was going to be 30.
Pentower Avenue.
Pentower, no, right, sorry, now I'm getting confused. Right, Pentower Road is 30. Pentower Avenue, it's not going to make any difference because there's so much parking bays. I mean, trying to get up, and I mean, I would have said the same thing going round to the start of Penmere Drive, but you're really lucky if you get above 5 on that road because of the parked car. There is natural traffic coming.
It's hard. There'll be more accidents because you're actually looking down. There'll be more accidents because you're actually looking down at your speedo, trying to stay at 20 in second gear. At night, when there's loads of children around, yeah, and you're still expecting us to move around at 20 mile an hour. It's ridiculous.
Right. So I will make a counter argument. Based on safety, I do believe that safety is a paramount, particularly in quieter roads. I think people who drive should observe speed limits, particularly if they are professional drivers. It shouldn't be a problem. The main arterial routes through, in and out of Newquay will remain at 30 or 40, and that's the argument. That's the argument I'm going to represent. There are a variety of opinions on this, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. They can make their representations, but I'm here to just offer a counterweight argument, and that's it.
I tend to agree with you. I think the idea of it. Hello, welcome, Councillor Fitter. We're just discussing the 20-mile-an-hour limit. Yeah. And the representations of, we're having a fairly more lively conversation than we had when we have with anybody else. But I've picked up that Whipsodary Cliffs, we need to, if we can, get that included in the scheme because it's been excluded and it shouldn't be. So, I mean, I did my comments on that. Duncan, having listened to what everybody's saying, are you able to, do you think, to draft a response sort of based on my comments and what everybody has said here?
Yes, and I've got access to the recording as well. Yeah, no, I've taken some reasonably detailed notes. The form that we are given starts with the question: what is your view on this scheme? Support or object?
Oh gosh. Right, okay. Show of hands, please. Who wants to support the scheme? And who's against the scheme? Go on.
Abstain, because I campaigned on it.
Well, you're judging by what you're saying. Councillor Fisher, do you have any views?
Well, you were talking about Whipsodary now.
Well, no, just across the town in the 20 mile.
The only one I think is Tregarrian.
I'm not certain our maps go far enough. I'm afraid we only got the Newquay maps.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we should mention Tregarrian and say, would you like to review? Because there seems to be, it doesn't seem to be terribly logical.
The other thing, Madam Chairman, I would
sensible, we can certainly put it forward and ask them to review, because I think looking at the Tregurrian, it's very messy what they've done. John?
What's the costing on this? Because new sort of signs up everywhere. Someone must have sort of worked out how much it's going to cost for.
Exactly the chief.
Just a waste of bloody money.
That's the chief objection I've heard of it from local people.
Just a waste of money.
A waste of money. I think they've got the funding, and that's why they're going to do it. So but there you go. So thank you for the Tregurrian point. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I think we're looking for a proposer and a seconder for supporting, by the looks of it, including these comments.
I think support with reservation, and it not unanimous, but report with reservations. Yeah. And if you're happy to, when do we have to submit by? Is it? Would you have time to circulate it, or do you just want to bang it in? You're writing it.
To be honest, I think it's almost going to be a list of bullet points.
Sorry?
To be honest, I think it's almost going to be a list of bullet points.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Because we are very, very tight now.
Okay, so what was it? So if you're happy to do, are we all happy to let Duncan, having listened to us, we trust you? So, show of hands, I propose that on the basis of the discussion, Duncan will prepare.
So if do you want to propose this, I'll second it, Duncan. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have we have support because they're not giving us but effectively not unanimous. We've had complaints or concerns raised about enforcement. We've had complaints raised by the taxi drivers and by the emergencies, and we think Tregurrian needs to look at again, and Whipsodary, they need to talk to the cliff specialists in Whipsodary, because this is an ideal opportunity to get that in for the same money. Yeah. So that's the proposal. We've got seconded, shows a show of hands to support that approach. I think that's 4, and yet you two would just stay. You're strongly against it. I think we can, if you can, in the bullet point saying that there was definitely mixed views on this. Yeah, thank you. The active travel exhibition. You mean the Mid-Cornwall Metro thingy? Good. I hadn't actually responded yet, but they had a choice between option 1 and option 2. They were definitely pushing option 2, and I thought option 1 was better. What they're basically saying is where the bus stop is. I think option 2 is bicycles go past the bus stop, and the people are all further away from the road, and when the bus comes, they cross the bike track, which to me seems a recipe for disaster. And I think option 1 is that they have a wider island at the bus stop, which is room for people to stand on, and the bikes go behind them.
My impression was that they presented to us, and I have my notes here with the photographs of their documents. They presented us to us phase 1 and phase 2, and in the phase 2, they are proposing the bicycle path with the island for the bus stop, which I agree that I was initially nervous to see as a proposal. But when I thought about it, I've cycled in this area a lot, and especially recently. These such cycle paths with bus stop islands are common. They've been around for well over 10 years. I've utilized them in other cities. And whilst they are, intuitively, I think, feel a bit nerve-wracking, I've never seen an accident. I'd be interested if they had any data on whether they do cause accidents, but I haven't heard of any. I know a lot of people who cycle and take the buses and things around them, because there's enough of an island there that people get off the bus, there's about a metre or so in front of them, and you sort of realise, oh, there's a cycle path.
That's option 1. Option 2 is not to have the...
But this isn't what this is about. This is about phase 1, which is about the top of Cliff Road. We're not talking about that
Okay.
yet.
Well, I did actually just say it was phase 2.
Yes, that might have been the consultation, but this is about
my
the stretched
point
road
was,
at Cliff
if
Road.
I may clarify then, that I didn't see a question asking me for option 1 or 2, but I did see what are our thoughts on phase 1 or phase 2, and the bus stop island is in phase 2, which we're currently being asked about phase 1. Yeah, yes.
So this is phase 1 that we are being consulted on here. I have a paper copy if anybody wants to look at it, although that's sort of reasonably
I mean, we
self-explanatory.
know there
up
is a group of the people who want to park on East Street. I personally, when we had the parking working party, that was one of the roads we thought was too narrow to have both parking and traffic going by. In fact, famously, one of our cabinet members lost his driving mirror because the bus did that. So I sympathise with what they're saying, but I think the road is very narrow there to have parked cars.
But again, that's not.
No, this is further up. So
Would it be helpful if I just quickly run through the list of bullet points that summarise this? So it is this stretch of narrow cliff from the Barrowfields down to the top of Edgecombe Avenue, Rocklands, that area. So that is what forms phase 1. So the carriageway, they are looking to narrow to a 6 metre minimum. The footway will then be widened on the cliff edge side. Will then be widened. The existing wall, you'll all be pleased to know, would be retained. The central island down by Rocklands will be removed, but no right turn into Edgecombe Avenue will remain. The no right turn into Edgecombe Avenue, we can zoom in on that a little bit. Those who are familiar with it will know that this sort of grey triangle here is painted at the moment. What they are looking to do is build that, make that into a solid thing. And the zebra crossing looks like it moves slightly towards the end of Edgecombe Avenue, and the railings around there would be removed as well. So that is what this plan is showing you.
So this is specifically about phase 1, whereas the presentation is
totally phase 1,
2,
nothing else.
Anybody got any views on phase 1? Anyone got any problems with it?
The main. I didn't have a problem with it in design. The main problem I have is the coaches that stop outside the Beresford with a narrowed road. That on the double yellow lines and on the pavement. They can't do that with a narrowed road, and that really needs enforcement.
Is illegal.
Yes, it is, but
they shouldn't be doing it.
They've always been doing it. But I mean, if they're narrowing the road down to 6 metres, it's a squeeze at the moment. You've got traffic coming the other way. You have to stop and wait. They're just not going to be able to do it with a narrowed road.
So basically, we're saying unless they can promise proper enforcement of the traffic restrictions for the hotel trade, and where does the hotel trade go, then...
So I did have a chat with the Cormac and the design firm and the Cornwall Council officer there about it, and they were saying their mandate is only design and consultation. If we have concerns about enforcement of various things to ensure that they're hardware, not software, essentially. So we will need to raise a representation to other Cornwall councillors saying, whilst we support what this Cornwall council is doing over here, we need you over there to enforce to make that work.
They may have said that, but there's absolute nonsense. They cannot operate in isolation.
Well,
that is just passing the buck, and I don't accept that at all. We're saying if you are narrowing the road, you can't narrow the road until you have sorted out the problem. The buses outside that are I know they don't want to talk about that.
I guess my point is more that this team's job is design the roads, and there's a different team who are responsible for enforcing with the highways or the police or whatever, and we would maybe need to write another letter there saying we need that enforced.
That's somebody other. I just don't accept that. I think.
I'm not saying we don't make a representation.
I understand what you're saying, and I can understand why they're saying it, but they cannot operate in isolation like that. That is ridiculous. Nick.
No, 100% against it being narrowed. Have you tried to get along there? It's impossible. If you've got a car coming the other way, if you've got a lorry coming the other way, you can't go past it. Yeah. So no, Absolutely not a chance am I supporting that.
So the
It's
principle-
got to stay at the same width.
So the principle is that they're widening the pavement and presumably...
It's
the bike track
unnecessary
will
to be widened because it's already wide down there, and on the other side you've got the railings and the wall and the bit the other side of the wall anyway. So it's unnecessary.
So as you can see from this, they're not talking about this multi-active travel route isn't on the side of the road that the hotels are. It's on the coast side. So that's why they want to widen that and narrow
A
the
few
road.
inches, which then come out of the road.
The footpath on the other side doesn't kind of come into the equation.
Isn't there a footpath the other side of the wall? I mean, why should they be coming
There is a
down?
footpath the other side of the wall because
Yeah.
it goes down to Town Beach. Tolcard Beach is unnecessary.
Yes.
It's a bike track and a
Yeah.
footpath.
The point is they're essentially adding a cycle path to, which doesn't exist right now, alongside the footpath, and the space for the cycle path would be stolen from the road.
So I'm getting a bit lost here. How does this relate to the track that goes across the Barrowfields, or does it not relate?
It connects it. It means that if you're cycling with your family and kids from the Barrowfields, now you're not going to walk into pedestrians, cycle into pedestrians on the...
Come off the Barrowfields here,
Yes.
and currently
That's the end of the cycling.
you
Right.
are.
You're on the footpath.
I think what they're trying to achieve is this here, this narrow footpath here, becoming
Well, it'd be
for cyclists.
that will stay as footpath, and then another metre into where we see the crisscross, triangle lines will become a cycle path, which is what's being stolen from
Right,
the
so it
road.
won't be multi-use, they'll be parallel to
Yes.
each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remove the path, put the cyclist there where the path is.
Yeah.
Path on the other side anyway.
I have to say my immediate assumption is to agree with you, Councillor Morris. I think the road's not wide enough for
But
this.
as you go further down,
Part of that road there that you're talking about is not that wide anyway. There's a
Yeah.
kink. It's quite tricky there anyway. You get a lot of people there, and you've really got to be careful anyway. So if you make it narrower,
Yeah.
it's just going to exacerbate the problem anyway. You'll get.
It's not easy.
You'll get.
Yeah.
but there's a very wide footpath on the other
you-
side.
yeah.
If
Exactly.
shifted over. But it is where it's the narrowest is outside the Beresford where you get the coaches stopping.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And they park illegally, one on the double yellow lines and two on the pavement. So personally, that is my main place of concern.
You're saying that you can't divorce this from the enforcement.
Yeah.
I understand why they want to make that pavement wider. But I am concerned.
add a cycle lane beside it.
they're
So
not
where
making
the
the
yellow
pavement-
lines are would become blue or something as a cycle lane, essentially, with then probably a little barrier, kind of concrete barrier.
But if you look at that car on the road, it's really not a lot of space. Whereas you could say you need to have a suitable crossing going to the other side of the road where you can just use it as a bike track. I think trying to have a bike ride on both sides of the road is probably being a bit greedy.
Are they trying to do it on both sides of the road?
No, that's
They're
not what they're
I believe
trying to
they're
do.
just trying to do it on this
They're
side
trying to-
of the road.
Yeah, just
Yes, but
make
they've
the
got
road
wide
smaller.
pavement on the
That's
other side, haven't they?
literally all they want to do.
I mean, the argument is there, sorry, John, the argument, is it wide enough for them to do this?
Has there ever been a survey of the number of cyclists going past there? 'Cause I've driven there loads of times. You hardly see a cyclist there.
They are trying to encourage more cycling. It's not because there are so many cyclists. It's because they want more cyclists.
I cycle there a lot as a confident road cyclist, but a family with 2 little kids on a bike can't cycle like I do along the roadside. And that's really what it's about. And I did hear Councillor Creek this morning saying that he has cycled there with his kids, although I think I think they were saying in a meeting this morning that there's a cycle route behind or something, which I didn't know about because I just go along the road and I'm quite a confident cyclist. But a lot of families and people already use another route. So it might be worth us trying to loop back with them because they raised some other suggestion.
You're talking about the town team meeting this morning.
Yes,
I couldn't
yeah.
hear that, so-
They'd raised some other sort of suggestion, and I couldn't hear it all, which is why I apologise, I'm a bit vague, but I think it may have been the same point about this pinch point, in which case they actually had a proposed solution, which was to encourage Cornwall Council to upgrade the current cycle route, which I think is behind here, on a road behind here, and a lot of families go around there and then they come out at the crossing behind this grey car.
They're talking about going right behind, aren't
Yeah.
they? Going round.
Exactly, rather than being over on the cliff. They just ignore this whole area, come out at, cross over to Barrowfields and ride across the park, essentially.
Yeah.
So it might be worth us trying to, maybe on email, loop back with them.
Is this another one where we're supposed to say whether we support it or not?
Absolutely.
Well,
There you go.
All right, well, just do the quiet vote. Do we support the proposal? Show of hands for supporting the proposal. Yes. Show of hands for not supporting the proposal. And two are worried about it. On the cusp. So I would say we don't support. I mean, it's not unanimous, but it's more likely that we don't, because and our concern is twofold. One, it is not wide enough to do what they want to do. Yeah. And secondly, it's they cannot divorce the responsibility for checking checking that the buses will do that, because you can see utter chaos coming.
In the same breath, I support the idea of encouraging cycling.
If you think about it, the bike track from the station comes down halfway down Tolkien Road. Yeah, and rather than try and use, I always get confused. Is it Cliff Road at this stage, or it is Cliff Road, isn't it, at that point? Yeah. Rather than try and use Cliff Road, they should be looking to extend the already existing bike track, which is behind.
That is what was said today. Yeah, exactly.
So is everybody, if we respond on that sort of basis, would everybody be happy with that?
I'll propose it if you like.
Basically, you are saying that you are not again or even supporting the idea, but you have concerns over the...
Not a narrow cliff.
Not a narrow cliff. We're saying no.
So,
we think it should be coming along behind, and you can see where the...
Off the Barrowfield up here, they're not going to go all the way down and round and here, but they would come down and at the back of the Premier Inn and along the lane there, all down as far as Edgecombe Gardens and down. And then people that are confident riders can continue to use that. But then they're not going to go all the way down Edgecombe Avenue from the station down the bottom of Tolkien Road and all the way up around there just to do this bit here. That's going to be too tempting, I think. So, I mean, it's fine in principle. I mean, great, but sorry, the physicality of the road and the cliff top and everything doesn't allow for it. And of course, you've got all the cars that reverse out from the car parking of Edgecombe, of the Beresford and the Beach Hotel as well. They're reversing out. So there's a lot of dangerous parking traffic manoeuvres going on to narrow that down even further.
I think we all seem to be roughly agreed on that. I mean, I love the idea of the bike.
Yeah, no, I think so.
And I'm happy with the junction, with the island going and then putting an island in the triangle. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because you do still have people. Yeah, the
Yes.
Edgecombe Avenue, but it's fine.
Yes, sorry.
They've already stated that there is not a wide enough bit on to put an island at the top of Eulalia Road with it as it is now. So how is it wide enough when you make it narrower to put a bike lane in there?
Yeah, well, that's what we're saying, but we're now talking about basically physically
talk.
stopping people turning
Yeah,
right
yeah.
into Edgecombe Avenue.
Yeah.
Because people do it. I mean,
What I would like to say is we have the luxury of a deadline of the 7th of November, so I will be able to draft something and I will email it out.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. Yeah, yeah.
I think we've
Yeah.
probably
Done that to
seen
death.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Might have somewhere else to be as well, so
Well, yes, I was going to
sorry, we've got an objection and a proposer in Nick,
Oh, so we all need to,
a seconder and a show of hands.
yeah.
and
Please.
it wasn't unanimous, but there was no one supporting it.
There was a show of hands, and I think
4 of us.
John
That
objected
was
as
then-
well.
yeah,
And then
that
you
was
two
an-
were,
I'm abstaining.
they're abstaining.
So there
Yeah.
was no support at all, really. I mean,
Yeah.
Narrow cliff.
in principle, thing to do now is to go back to public questions. I'm not even sure that as Councillor Fitter, as a Cornwall Council, possibly doesn't need public questions, but I know you want to make a representation on something, John?
Yeah, I do indeed, Madam.
Right, if you would like, and I think it's the licence application which we're going to hear immediately after. So my proposal is that we now open public question to allow Councillor Fitter to talk, and then we'll go back and we'll look at the licensing application that you've come to talk about.
I second it, Duncan. We all.
Show of hands, everybody.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to broaden out something that hasn't come to you yet and something that has come to you yet. And it's the licence application for the Sky Bar, which has come to you, and it's a licence application for next year. And as I understand from your planning officer, it's a licence application that is in perpetuity. It will continue on, as I understand. Now, I have got a fundamental objection to that, because I do believe that this location is an area that I feel is in danger of being overdeveloped and commercialised and industrialised to the extent that we'll have a link from Watergate Bay right up to Whipsodary. At the moment, development north, as I call it, of the gateway of Porth ends at Whipsodary. But if we encourage people to have permanent applications approved in that location, it continues what I can call a sort of a train expression, a continuing process of other businesses coming forward. And to that end, they will need a planning permission to go with their licence. And once again, they have not yet made their application, but almost certainly it will be an application that they will want to have a permanent permission, because the guidelines is such, as interpreted by Cornwall Council, that it's unreasonable to refuse a permanent permission if they've already been granted a temporary permission for the same location. I do believe, in actual fact, that Cornwall Council are in error in that interpretation, because this land is Article 4 land, so the premise is, in actual fact, that there should be no development there of this type unless an application is submitted. Well, if we're then going to give permanent permission, it sort of belays and undermines and destroys the myth that the land is itself protected. We also have, of course, reasons in the Cornwall local plan, the Newquay neighbourhood plan, the climate emergency, which actually would indicate that we would not favour development in this location of a permanent nature. Now, people will say to me, and perhaps members of your committee will say, well, it's only temporary. But the point is, it's temporary but permanent, because it's a permanent temporary permission. And so how long is a piece of string? Once you've given that permission, then there is nothing to stop applicants coming back and extending that temporariness by saying, well, we want now 4 times, 5 times, 3 times. They're applying for 2 times. But there is nothing to stop them coming back in and escalating it. There's nothing to stop, and it would be hard to resist, other applications of a singular nature coming in and attempting to use that spot where they've got, or another part of the field, at the behest of the owner of the field, and do the same thing and say, well, it's a different thing. You could have the midsummer days feasts up there with music for 500 people or 1,000 people with camping. And I think it's sending out the wrong messages for that particular field. We already have the boardmasters, and we now accept the boardmasters have got a permanent permission there, which means that you have development structures in that field for 28 days. That is what it all intends, because they have the build-up beforehand, the festival, and the breakdown afterwards. So you've already got a large development in that field for most of August. We're now being asked to approve something. At the moment, it's a Whitsun bank, it's the May bank holiday one. Who's to say that they won't come back in and say, well, we want one now also, because they're going to ask for 2 on the Whitsun one bank holiday? Who's to say that their numbers will not grow? So I think that, I'm relaxed enough to say that if they're going to apply for if the authorities say, well, we'll give them a temporary plan and permission and a temporary license, then, I'm still worried about it, and I'd still like to refuse it. But if the advice is that we don't have any grounds for refusing it, then, I'll accept it. But I will certainly fight and fight again to object to a permanent permission, because I believe it's a slippery slope in that field, and it's something which we should discourage. We hold that responsibility for that section of coastline in trust for the population of Newquay, the visitors, future populations of Newquay and future visitors. And I think that we are being cavalier if we betray that trust and say, well, let them have a permanent permission, etc. and so forth, because it will be a slippery slope. And I think that, I would like to think the Town Council stand firm on that field. You have also half the field to the north of it, and I know you were pretty vigorous in objecting to the cinema, which we managed to get stopped and overturned, turned down. That was also, we were told, of course, a temporary thing, but we managed to get it stopped. I think we need to do the same resistance down this end here and say, look, let's think about it carefully. And the Sky Bar's been there. I think they're licensed. I think, Duncan can correct me, I think it's 500 people. But I could be wrong. It could be up to 1,000 now. I'm not quite sure of the number. Thousands of 1,000 now. Yeah, so it's already crept up to 1,000. And, with growth will come problems. And it will detract from that coastal footpath. So, I hate to think that we have a permanent permission there. And that is what they're applying for, and that is what their application planning-wise will be for. And I would hope that you will make representations and say that this is once again the horse before the cart. Tell them to go away and get their permanent plan permission, and then come back and apply for their liquor licence.
You're going to make a representation so it goes to committee?
Have I?
Are you going to?
I would, well, yes, I'm minded now to, in actual fact, object to the licence. I think I would have to use It's difficult really because objecting for the licenses, the 4 licenses objectives, and they're pretty narrow in what they compass. But I think that in actual fact, I think there's protection. One of the licenses is protection of person and persons, and fear of disturbance or something. I forget what the words are now.
Public nuisance, I think.
But I might, bung it in that and hold a hearing, and I could be the only one there objecting. But I will be making the case that the reasons for my objections are in line with the licence objectives, but they're backed up by the concern that I have to the damage that will be done to the status of this field and this coastal belt that lies between Watergate Bay and the intrusion and the harm that will result from it.
It sounds like it's going to be called to subcommittee anyway, because if they have to go to council subcommittee.
Yeah, well, if they have one objection, I think, Madam Chairman, you're right, it has to go to a licensing committee to be held. But the weight of Newquay Town Council is key and important, because if you are minded to support it, then I believe in actual fact that the licensing committee will probably wish to listen to me in tolerance and then make a decision based upon the view of the town council and of officers, because I suspect officers will weigh in support. If you object, if you're minded to object, then I do believe that we get a fair hearing and the realisation that we cannot continue to nibble away at this area, and that's what it is, nibbling away at the area. That, there is other places they can hold this event that is not on the coastal fields. The landlord, Mr. Cowling, has numerous fields inland where they can hold it, and everyone's happy. But they want to go out because it's a delightful place to be. That section of path that rises gently and then goes on around is one of the jewels in Newquay's crown. It is a coastal walk, and we play with it and risk it at our peril. And I think we just need to be conscious of what's happening and the gradual drip of what's and it's going to continue to happen. Because it's not part and pertinent to this, but the boardmasters, even though they won't go for an increased numbers, they will want to extend their activities in the coming year. They will wish to move in to more of the area where they've got the additional plan and permission for, which they didn't use last year. And so you've got a bigger growth on that area. And it's not helpful. It's not helpful at all, and I believe it should be resisted.
Stop? I mean,
yeah,
because
used
you're
for 10
Cornwall
minutes.
Council, you can take part anyway. Duncan, have you got any advice for us on this one?
Right. Well, I'd start off by saying that, as Councillor Vitter says, the Licensing Act has quite narrow parameters whereby objections can take place. You are looking at the 4 licensing objectives, so it's quite different to material planning considerations. So when consulted on this, you would, or if we returned a representation, the licensing would be looking at how the any one of the 4 licensing objectives was being undermined. That is basically the paperwork that we fill in says which of the licensing objectives is being undermined here. The applicant has held events on this field under a temporary event notice for a number of years, and then in 2021 secured what was a time-limited premises license, and once having achieved that, got a time-limited planning permission to run until the 17th of November. In fact, hence this application now, because he wishes to wishes to carry on. It's for 2 events per year. for up to 1,000 people. I believe that he has only, in actual fact, run one event per year, although he does have the permission is for two. I'm trying to. I want to try and keep this in licensing terms, because really I think a lot of the issues associated with this are more to do with planning and the Article 4 direction, which seeks to protect this part of the coastline and requires even temporary structures to have planning permission. This is why planning permission would be required. So the Skybar stretch tent, which is just a tent which can be put up anywhere normally, does actually require planning permission in the Article 4 area. But we are not being asked to judge the planning side of this at the moment. We are being asked to judge the licensing side. So we are looking at crime and disorder, we are looking at public nuisance, we are looking at public safety, and the track record of this company, the Skybar, would show that they've been able to run this without undermining any of the licensing objectives so far.
I was thinking when you were talking, Councillor Fitter, that it was more planning issues you were talking about rather than licensing issues. It's difficult actually to turn down a licence once they've already got it and there have been no complaints. Does anybody have any views? I mean, do we want to make a representation on this? Do we want to say, well, we'll wait and see what the planning application is saying?
I mean, my objection on this is the map I find wholly inadequate. When I think of the licensing application that we've been privy to for events on the other side, you know, the run to the sun and that sort of thing, then, you know, the map's got where everything's going to be. I mean, is this going to be fenced off? I think I just find the map completely inadequate, and I will not be supporting it on those grounds. And I don't think it should be given licensing in perpetuity in terms of the compaction that's happening on that site now with increased storm and runoff. I mean, is just huge. You know,
but that is not a licensing
That's not
issue.
a licensing issue. My main issue then is that map that we've just got, a red and a blue oblong, I think is not adequate enough, and I won't be supporting it on that.
Talk about that. This map meets the regulations set out under the Licensing Act. Yeah, there's not much more to.
Page as well of a design of the venue there. So
This is effectively the stretch tent. The applicant is basically has the use of this field. Is not looking to put the stretch tent right down the bottom, but this is the area in which licensable activities can take place. Because it's a temporary structure and sort of different conditions would perhaps see it located in different places. I believe that they do put the event management plan that accompanies this does look at using Harris fencing to keep people away from the edge. It's not just a case of getting drunk in the tent and then wandering off the cliff. So there are all of that is included within the event management plan that accompanies this as well. And as I say, they've been running it for a number of years without any issues. The police, Sue Edwards, came back to me. What did she say? I have no concerns with this application. Now, and this is interesting because they have made a couple of changes, and they have actually taken 15 minutes drinking up time off the previous permission. If that was in the centre of town, that would be a big problem. But Sue Edwards says, I don't actually see that in this location contributing to acts of crime and disorder. because a lot of people will have gone there by car anyway, and so wouldn't be drinking. Yeah, it's in licensing terms, it's I struggle to see which licensing objectives we would be able to strongly argue are being undermined. But that's not to say that that isn't possible, but I personally am kind of struggling to see how.
Has anybody else got any views?
I'm torn because I agree with Sarah and Councillor Fitter on the impact on nature. I'm looking at the 4 points for alcohol licensing, and it's prevention of crime and disorder. As far as we know, there's no crime and disorder. Public safety, it's not a public safety issue. Prevention of public nuisance, I don't believe there's a public, police have said they don't believe there's a public nuisance. Protection of children from harm, that's not a children's event. So whilst, I'm more concerned about the impact Boardmasters has on nature in this area. I think it's disappointing that the licensing process doesn't allow us to speak up for nature. But in terms of the 4 reasons to speak against a license, I can't see any reason to object.
Anybody else got any views? I think it's real. I tend to. Oh, sorry.
It's hiding behind us. Councillor Morris.
Yeah, this is on my patch, and I cannot support it at all. I agree totally with Councillor Fitter. It's not appropriate to have a bar there.
Is it because of the licensing implications, or is it because of the licensing implications? Is it because of the planning implications?
I don't know, it's a bit tricky, really,
it's
isn't
a
it?
big change to go from an annual renewal to forever. And I mean, I would like to say it's probably worth, if Councillor Fitter is going to put it to committee anyway, then we would attend. I think it's like, I tend to agree with you, Kate. I can't see any reason under licensing why we would make a representation. But I would certainly happy to go along and well, I'd probably actually give it to you, Sarah, since you've got strong views on the subject. Of sort of go,
I've just
support the conversation.
For the record, I love the event. I think it's fantastic. I'm very torn because I'm 50% that these are great and 50% that, yes, there may be nature impacts. But on that note, again, Boardmasters is far. If we're worried about nature in this area, we should be worried about Boardmasters, not this.
We are talking about 2 weekends a year as well, just to make that clear. It's two weekends.
1,000 people, not 60,000 people.
No. 1,000, up to 1,000 people over 2 weekends of a year, and it avoids the Boardmasters events as well.
I think it is difficult to come up with but I think we can make a representation on the basis of.
Nick wants to.
Sorry, Nick, what were you going to say?
One question. If we support it and you give it to Sarah, because she's got so many objections to it, which side does she actually go? Does she have to then support it or
We
not?
don't actually support. What we say is we make a representation or not.
We don't support. This isn't support, raise no objection, or it is the thing is, are you submitting a representation or not submitting a representation? And to be honest, you can be supportive of an event, but submit a representation because maybe you think it goes on for an hour too long. It's quite different from planning in that respect.
But they do say to you when you get to a hearing is that if you can't really raise something that you haven't raised in your representation.
Absolutely, yes, it has to be. That you can talk about, as Joanne says, you can talk about what you have raised in your representation. You can't suddenly bring new things into the licensing hearing.
I think it's very difficult. It's Katie. I'm waiting for someone to provide a solution here.
I actually support this. I think it's a brilliant idea. It's always there. It's good. It's never caused a problem. It really hasn't, not as far as I've seen. I would go with no representation personally, but if it's going to be pulled in, representation to support.
I love the event as well, I've said again. I think they're fantastic. On the other hand, I'm literally 50-50 that if there's a real impact on nature, then Sarah, I'm not sure whether you could use the prevention of public nuisance in the sense that this is nature, this is a place that people go for nature, and is that, because I don't see that written anywhere, any effort by them to ensure the timing is around the corn buntings breeding and things like that, which to be fair, boardmasters have done some work on that, so they could actually just build on what's already been done.
I think with that by allowing boardmasters, that whole argument's gone by the board. We've got nothing to do on that. Just with the comparison of sheer scale, that's not going to be a foot line. What I'm is giving this permanent licence. I don't think it should be given a permanent licence. It's a business, they've been surviving for years, it'd be costed in, that the licence is then applied for annually or biannually or whatever to do that. And because it's opening up then for, oh, look, there's somebody else that wants to do a thing. Oh, look, there's another thing. And it's just going to go on and on and on. And,
which is what Councillor Fitter is saying.
Yeah.
Duncan, you wanted to raise something?
So I just wanted to say the issue with repeatedly time limiting this is that the counter argument is that the mechanisms exist within the Licensing Act for a problematic premises licence to be reviewed. So the mechanisms are there. When we looked at this 3 years ago, we said, well, let's give it 3 years and see, and just
3 years.
kind of keep an eye. Yeah, it's 2021. Keep an eye on it in terms of, are there any problems, rather than just saying, yes, you can do this in perpetuity. There have been no problems, and there are the mechanisms. I'm not trying to talk you out of any decision. I'm just trying to make clear the reality is that the counter argument would be the mechanisms exist if there were problems with the licensable activities.
Sounds as though, I think, Duncan, you put it quite well, that it's not about objecting or supporting. We may just want to make a representation. So really, Sarah, do you...
well, yeah, but I mean,
comes down to you.
I'm not.
Call it in anyway. We could say that while we support the event, and there has been no known complaints, it's because of the big difference between making it time limited and permanent.
Yeah.
And we believe that those issues, and particularly the planning issues, which we realise aren't part of the licensing application, should be reviewed before they get a permanent proposal. I wouldn't be doing that if Councillor Fitter wasn't going to call it in anyway, because I wouldn't want us, I don't think we would call it into subcommittee. But I would like to be able to have a speech there so that we can actually say something, as opposed to not making any representation and therefore we don't have a voice at the hearing, because we've had that before. They have heard things, we haven't made a representation, and they've had a hearing, and that I wouldn't want. But I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think Councillor Fitter was going to call it in anyway. But otherwise, we get no voice. We don't get invited to the meeting.
Could I suggest, I mean, the only, really, you do sort of need to kind of shoehorn your concerns into one of the 4 licensing objectives. It's not going to be crime and disorder.
No, it'll be public
It's
nuisance.
not going to be. It's not going to be. It's not going to be.
It could be public
children.
nuisance. The effects of
Public-
the footpath, which is public nuisance.
Yeah.
And access to, that is an area of access. Councillor Fitt is quite right that people, it is, it's the Southwest Trail, it's coast path, and people go there to see nature and have the one of the few chances to access nature. And it's not this event in particular, but more and more of these events would impact nature in that area.
We would be concerned about setting a precedent
Yeah.
for permanent.
And I mean, personally, I think there's a bit of a compromise on the edge of this, is that we could separately, as a committee, write a letter to Skybar and say we'd encourage you to actually look at nature and biodiversity.
Now that's a different. That's because we have to look at the planning. But could we write a representation on that basis, just so that we get a voice at the hearing? Because otherwise we just don't get invited.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, public nuisance is in many ways it's to do with the things like noise nuisance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they have, I believe, demonstrated that noise nuisance isn't an issue with this. But so what we're trying to sort of shoehorn in is concerns about the impact on the natural environment there and its degradation as public nuisance. I can put something together and we can have a go.
And the footpath.
And it might get you, public footpath, yes, of
And
course.
then if it turns out that we are making the only representation, then we can withdraw it. Effectively, because I think we're reacting to the fact that we think there's going to be a hearing, and therefore we think we ought to be represented at the hearing, and the only way we can assure that is by making a representation. It's a bit
basically trying to get a seat at the table.
exactly.
Yeah. I can try and shoehorn this in the form of words that will.
Yeah.
I don't know how it will be received, but it's we can certainly do that.
If it helps you at all, there's a public footpath that runs from west to east across the site, and it actually goes right across the site itself. And saw some dissension because they removed it from the ball masters and then failed to replace it. There's one that goes right across the middle and comes out on the main road.
Yeah, we've got here footpaths.
So I was thinking the effect on footpath. If you could make a sort of representation on that basis, that would then give us a seat. That would then give us a seat at the table. Even
Hopefully,
though
I'm not making any promises, but hopefully it will, because they may just say, no, this is, yeah.
But if it then transpires that the council thinks again, then, and we're the only one making a representation, then the licensing officer can come back to us and say, look, you're the only one making a representation, and then we can say, right, we'll leave it in that case, because I don't think we are in the position of saying we think this should go to a subcommittee, but because it's going anyway, we'd like a seat at the table.
We can roll the dice.
So that's my proposal. Is there a seconder for that? You're seconded, fine. So show of hands to make a really wishy-washy representation, just to get us the days.
And it's just a comment.
I'm going to abstain as well.
Right, so I think that was four and 2 extensions, so we'll go with that.
Right, that was interesting.
Yeah, well, it was difficult. Thank you for making our life so difficult, Councillor Fitton. Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to talk on this? Is there another one in your...
I believe it may come up today, but I think you've been copied into an email, and we'll both, the Town Council and myself, need clarification, I think, on the non-material amendment.
This is the Whipstead Area Hotel. Are we listening to it today?
You certainly are, as long as we've got enough time.
Well, what I was going to suggest, in fact, was that we close public questions and we discuss that one straight away so you can listen to hear what we're talking about.
I'm sure you'll be guided by your able...
But what we're not doing is hearing it again because it's already got permission. This is just the non-material amendment. We just need to, so you can hear to what we're saying.
I think if I can be allowed to say, I think I would question, and I think your officer may agree that there is merit in my questioning it, whether it is a non-material amendment or not. But I'll leave it to explain to you my logic.
Okay, so what I'm sorry.
Just as John, I want a quick word with you before you go, please.
What I'm proposing is to change the... So, are you going anyway now?
Yeah, I've got to go. Well, I really got to go. I've got to go now because it started.
Okay. In that case, we don't need to change the agenda. We just hear you were going to say something.
You're on live. They're on live. So you're having a private.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, Councillor Morris. No, Councillor Morris. We're carrying on with the meeting. If you want to talk to Councillor Fitter, you have to leave the room and all the rest of it. So, right. So where are we on the agenda? Yes. So, was that anything else on active council? So closing public questions now. Show of hands for that. Do we need a show of hands for that? Yeah, thank you very much. Right.
Second.
Right, show of hands, right. Okay, so have we finished active consultations? Have we any other licensing issues to talk about?
Yes, you have one more licence.
Oh.
We are actually just working through the agenda now. We're kind
Yes.
of back in order, so we don't need to be closed. Oh,
That's
my,
8-2.
that was
I
my
was hoping there was
timesheet
going to be
there.
nothing
I do
there with it.
apologise for that. Let me just save that and close that. That certainly shouldn't be up on the screen. Right.
What's 8-2 then? Is that what?
Okay, so it's that time of year when we start to see street trading renewals. And we'll see a few more of these, I'm sure, over the next few weeks. The caricature artist who operates outside the Concho Lounge, Andrew Page, has applied again to trade for June, July, and August. That's 10 till 6, as in previous years, under the same terms as he has done outside the Concho Lounge. Personally, speaking from sort of like corporate service office's point of view, I'm not aware of us having had any complaints about this guy, and he has renewed many times. If we want to sort of kind of raise concerns about this, we have to do it quite sharpish because the deadline is the 1st of November.
You got any problems with renewing?
Support,
So
he
no
seems to do a lovely
representation?
job. Yeah, thank you.
So I
Yeah.
propose that. I think Joe
Yes,
would.
lovely.
Show of hands, we're going to no representation on that one. Right.
Oh, that's us. The next one is previous.
Previous planning applications.
Right, we do have. I think I've carried it over to the next one. So no, we haven't got any 5-day protocols, but we have got 2 planning applications that we have looked at before that we need to touch base with again. Okay, the first of these is the former Porth Stores at the beach, Alexandra Road. We looked at this on the 25th of September. Yeah. We looked at the application at our meeting on the 25th of September, raising no objection. Sorry, excuse me. Raising no objection. You can find that no objection. I think it's at the top of your. It's the first one in your comments document. We've been reconsulted. This is another one where they've changed the description. I'm not 100% certain for the change, but the officer said it was purely a change to the application description, no changes to the proposal. So she says, I'm not sure that the town council will really need or want to comment again, but we did have to be reconsulted on this, as we did with the what were those cottages that we looked at?
So what is the change in description?
So previously it just said the modification of condition 2 of permission C2 07146 without compliance of conditions 1 and 2 dated 2nd of May 2012. I don't know why, but for some reason it actually needed to be much longer than that, because it needed to include the wording of that 2012 permission. So it becomes a much longer, but nothing else has changed about it whatsoever.
Can I propose we go no objection
Technical
to
point.
the reconsultation?
Seconded.
Show of hands for no objection. Let's not drag it out. Right, okay, no problem with that one.
The other one is actually just an information item. We looked at the Adult Education Office on Tolkien Road. I don't know if I've actually got that there. No, I don't think I have. It's just... yeah, we looked at this application most recently on the 11th of September and raised no objection, which you can find again on page 1 of your comments. You'll note that the comment that we made welcomes the inclusion of the 14 parking spaces within the application site. We had originally objected because they tried not to include those. You'll note that you had requested a parking analysis for the hub to be produced to work out the capacity. This has now been provided, and it is with your meeting papers. Hopefully it satisfies your interest in how the parking is proposed to work for staff and visitors. There have been some, I mean, there's a public comment that's, I think, quite wide of the mark in terms of the number of people that will be in the building and the cars that will be there. So you have those details. Nothing has changed about this application, and in fact the deadline for the consultation period ceased on the 12th of September. So even if you're not happy with it, it's too late to say anything. The officer is in fact looking to delegate, approve under delegated authority on Monday, but we asked for a document and we have been given it. So.
Well, it's good to see that, and I have to say it doesn't look like they actually are matching the Cornwall Council requirements for their parking. And that's what they said when we looked at it. They said, yes, well, it's not quite meeting our standards. So we knew that was going to be a problem. It's, I mean, when you look at 40 staff, and you're thinking, how many parking places are they providing? I mean, not 40. No. So it could be a real problem, but I don't think there's anything we can do about it now. I think if we had... they're providing 36. 36.
Total car parking spaces.
Perhaps people can share car shares. Because it does appear that they haven't got enough parking.
Yeah. So sorry, this is the new building behind the train station, is that correct?
Yes, the new hub there on the building.
Yeah, the hub there. So it's too late, but I don't know if this could come in by any other angle. This sort of overlaps a bit with the consultation around the Mid-Cornwall Metro and everything. And I did say this to them in that meeting on last Thursday, which is that if you were to park further back, so there's this application, I think, and then there's another car park behind it. And I was pointing out that that's great, but you need a really safe walkway between the two of them so that the overflow can happen. I think, Councillor Kenny, to your point, that, you know, if there are more, then there is another car park being built or upgraded where the buses currently park due to the Mid-Cornwall Metro, but there didn't seem to be a connection, a pathway between them with good lighting and good visibility, maybe some CCTV, that sort of thing.
I'm suggesting the council isn't using a joined-up approach. Come. If you
at Street View, there is a barrier, there is a gap in the fence between that car park and the coach park.
My point was the safety of it, that it would need to be sort of well lit and things for people to want to use it in the evenings, and that's.
I think it's not going to make any difference to us, as we say now. I think we're grateful for this. I would have liked to have seen this when we actually were reviewing the application, because I do have concerns that they haven't got sufficient parking. I don't think there's anything we can do about it now. Well, no, thank you very much. Next time, can you provide your parking analysis before we actually...
It's interesting to see how they kind of arrive at their sort of final figure.
When we have absolute chaos and local people are complaining that they can't park outside their own homes because of this place overflowing, we'll be able to look at the evidence and say, well, we told you so. But there's nothing we can do about it. So can I just propose we note this?
Yeah.
So show of hands for noting it. Thank you. Better late than never. Right. Okay. So are we actually now on to planning applications? I think you're doing the. I think the only one I wanted to do, you swiped. So.
Did I?
No, Duncan did. I think it's the. So. What's the? I've lost my.
It's just on the.
So we're now on item 10. So the first. Oh, I've got planning portal come. That's not what I wanted. Where's the applications? Oh,
We've lost the planning
the planning
applications,
applications
Duncan.
have gone.
It's gone to the comments. It's gone to this.
We've lost our link to the planning applications.
Duncan, they're yellow, but they're not linked this time.
No, it's basically this document.
Comments. It's the comments.
Oh yes,
It's all comments.
Planning applications and comments. We've just got comments.
Right.
That's what the applications are.
Yeah, but we like to sort of,
Yeah.
if you could possibly email it to us, that would be lovely. It was there before when I looked at it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's happened.
Right, I'll have to stop sharing my screens. I can't show my emails at a public meeting, you know, that's being live streamed. So I'm going to have to stop sharing.
You're still sharing.
You're sharing it, Duncan. It's like, oh, there's
Just
your
press
email.
Stop sharing. Share content. I don't know how to stop sharing it then.
Good news is I'm behind that sign.
I think that's the live one.
That's the live one. So I'm not sharing, right? Hopefully.
But you are
Yeah,
now.
no, I'm not because this isn't.
Yeah. The
Oh, I
live
see.
stream is
Right.
Oh, okay.
If anybody can see this, please avert your eyes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm not quite certain what must have happened there. Because that was fine earlier, wasn't it?
It was fine earlier, yes. I was looking at it earlier.
Okay. So you should all have that.
What have you done? Have you?
I've sent you all an email and it's attached. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Just have a message.
Right.
So you've sent it to. Oh yes, right.
Yeah. All good?
Yeah.
Safe to carry on. There we go.
Right. So the first one is Whipsterderry, PA 24/07004.
No, we've just done that.
Just done that.
No,
I'm looking at the wrong. I'm looking at the wrong
go
thing.
down
Right.
to number
Okay.
1.
The first one is. Oh yes, this is the one I wanted to do, and you'd already done it. PA 24/05988. This is 2 Seaside on Pentire Crescent.
Right, I'll start off with the overhead, I think, for this one. Seaside at Pentire. Yeah, so it's just off Pentire Crescent. And
It's the lower bit of Pentire Crescent which goes down to Fistral.
yeah,
Not my bit.
yeah. And this here, so yeah, you've got Pentire Crescent here. And yeah, you've got this little, I didn't even know this existed, I must admit. This is 2 Seaside.
I'm surprised that Google actually came down here.
Yeah, yeah. There were no public comments regarding this. Yeah, we were due to look at this one on the 28th of August, but for some reason it was removed from the planning register at the last minute, and we never managed to figure out why. So, looking at the site location plan first of all, there are 3 addresses making up Seaside. Number 2 is the one in the middle here. We've got existing and proposed site plans. The existing is on the left and the proposed is on the right. The eagle-eyed amongst you will see that the one in the middle, the proposed on the right-hand side there, has an addition to the front, the proposed front extension as described. So,
Probably worth saying that the entrances to 1 and 3 are around the side.
yes, indeed. That's the point that I was going to make. So it's when we look at it, you think, oh yes, it looks like one big property, but in actual fact, it is 3. Number 2 has a front door. Number 1 and number 3 have these have side doors. Presumably it was one big property once upon a time, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to have a look at the elevations. Yeah, that's the existing. We don't need to focus on that too much. This is the proposed. So you'll see that they are. In fact, we'll make that a little. You can sort of see how it kind of protrudes here. It's timber clad. It has a flat roof, but they aren't looking to utilise that flat roof. They're looking to have a door that's sort of similar. Obviously, it's not directly under the window now. It's kind of slightly to one side. So, I mean, that's effectively the application. I would suggest that a key concern might be these windows, and are they going to, in terms of the 45-degree rule, would they lose any natural light as a result of having this extension out?
That in the diagram, don't they? You can see it shades the window there.
I'd like to propose a no objection and asking the officer to confirm that number 1 and number 3 were in fact consulted.
I don't think we can do that, but we can say number 1 and number 3 are not affected. So that
Are not affected, and the required consultation
it's
process
sensible.
was undertaken.
So this is a householder application. So the residents of the neighbouring addresses should have received.
That's what I mean.
Should have received a letter.
Yeah.
To say about
So
about
to
this
ask
planning
the officer
application.
to ask number 2, did you send the letter, or whoever's meant to have sent the letter? Is it? I see. Ah, okay.
I think it's more important that they actually test whether there's any effect on the light going into 1 and 3.
I'm not massively comfortable with sort of raising no objection and saying, did you send a letter to the officer? I don't think that's going to take us anywhere.
So the Cornwall Council officer would have sent the letter. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not certain if the Cornwall Council officer sends it. I'm not certain if the verification
Cornwall
team
Council
sends it.
Generally, not the applicant.
Yeah, no, they should. No, Cornwall Council with householder applications, they are supposed to send a letter to either side.
They are meant to, but we had a big one down Espinay Road, and they never told.
Yeah, but that really we need to be looking at. Really, we need to be focusing on material planning considerations.
So I would start with what you said, which is no objection, subject to the officer confirming that there is no negative effect on the lights in the amenity of the adjacent windows. There's plenty of room. It's not going to affect parking. It's just the only problem might be, is those 2 windows belong to the adjacent properties? Just to check that it's got no negative effect on it.
That shrub will be going as well, won't it?
Presumably.
And the little bit of green that it's got in front there.
Yeah. So I propose that, if anybody was prepared to second that. Yeah, show of hands for no objection on that basis. Aye. They would do a chorus of seconding it.
Show of hands, sorry. Yeah, that's everybody. Right. No objection, subject to no loss of light to the adjacent windows.
And no loss of amenity to the next door, right. So now we're on to another Whipsy Dairy one, PA 24/07657, proposed garage conversion with rear single-storey extension. Yes, I don't know which ones you said you were going to do.
5 and 7.
Right. So Duncan, can you take us through this one?
So yeah, so this is 2 doors down from, oh, where are we? 2 doors down from, oh, lost our maps, right, okay. 2 doors down from the filling station. Now the former BP, now the Co-op filling station. So it's this house here. The street view, I struggled a little bit to get because what we're talking about is a garage that's alongside this house. We can just see a corner of it. But then I found, if we go back to 2010, we get a, no, we get a lovely, this is the only one that I could find, but we get a lovely, the Google car is obviously in just the right place, and we do get a view of the proposed, the garage that is proposed for, it is, yeah, no. Right, so starting off with this, I just really just, you know, just to show you that these are quite spacious plots. You can see the relationship to neighbours. It's quite a generous plot for some of these houses along here. The block plan, I love block plans like this where they just show you exactly how they're changing the footprint. So that is the white bit there, and sandwiched in between the red is the existing garage, and there you can see the footprint of their proposed conversion. We have an existing site plan. Let's just come over here a bit. What were we going to do that on 75? So that's, yeah, so that's the garage that they've got, and the proposed. There we go. So we could just swap between the two here. So that's your existing, and that's your proposed, with the grey obviously highlighting the new build elements. The building line of the garage is brought forward to create space for a living room. The garage is extended rearwards to accommodate a games room, bathroom, and a bedroom to the rear. There is a connecting aspect door here to the main dwelling. Let's have a look at some elevations just to see what it's going to look like. Really, you won't see a massive amount of it, because it's sort of all at the rear.
So it's one long, one-storey extension on the back.
Yeah, yeah. So just to, I'm not going to spend too much time on the existing elevations, but that's the east elevations. That's the side. That's showing a section of the existing garage that's proposed for conversion. We'll now just concentrate on the proposed. So. As with the existing garage, it does go up to the boundary. There are no windows or doors. The ones that you can see there are because it's a sectional drawing, so they actually faced out west. So, for instance, these bifold doors here are actually, they're not looking at us; they're looking out into the garden on the other side. Okay, the north elevation. This just shows that the extension matches the design materials of the existing building. If we scroll down, we see the south elevation, which is the street facing. So it will now present a residential frontage, not double garage doors, but sort of a continuation of the existing house. There's a slight increase in the parapet wall along there, and finally you've got another sectional drawing sort of showing the existing dwelling, and this side of the extension that you can see is what is facing into into this garden area here. Okay, that'll be these bifold doors that they've got there, as shown here. They do say there are no changes to the parking arrangements. Presumably the garage isn't used for parking. A lot of them aren't. I think, as we can see from the block plan, there is a lot of space at the front of this. Clearly ample parking and turning to meet any of our policies. That's the application.
Has anybody got any problems? Katie?
I don't have any concern with their actual design. What's missing is that they don't appear to have put solar panels on it, so I'd be raising that concern if we could, please.
Yeah. Nice flat roof.
So I can,
I did have a look, I couldn't see them on.
There's a roof plan. No, it doesn't look like
No,
this.
yeah.
Doesn't look like there any does that on that. So we can only encourage, but we
Yeah.
can certainly
Yes,
include that
thank
as a
you.
comment.
and we need to include the Southwest Water comment as well, that
Yes,
we haven't
please.
put in a, that I think, I mean, I've got, I propose no objection to this, pending those other things, and that a statement that it's not going to be considered another dwelling in the, converted to another dwelling in the future.
No objection rather than support.
Yeah, with these, with the Southwest Water,
Yes,
And
but that's... they're-
I mean, there's nothing to suggest that they're creating another dwelling here in terms of, I mean, the
Not
sort
at
of
the
the
moment.
access. No, not under this application. The access to the garden. I mean, I don't think that you would have this huge bifold doors,
Gain
with you,
round the back.
etc.
Councillor Morris?
The only thing that's worrying me is how on earth do they do the maintenance? It's right up against the boundary wall.
What, sorry? Could you say they can do it on the other side?
They already are up against the boundary wall with the existing garage, so there must be presumably
that's
there
a
is a
neighbour's
way of
problem,
doing
isn't
that.
it? Yeah.
Oh, okay then.
So we have a proposal for no objection. Anybody prepared to second that? A23/03400. Over to you, Duncan.
Okay, so you will be familiar with this property, I'm sure. 1 King Edward Crescent is this property right on the sort of corner of Beacon Road and King Edward Crescent. So we're looking this Atlantic Lodge, something along those lines. But what we're interested in is this grey space here, which we have seen many times. I've seen one public objection to the current plans. All of the others are for the previous plans, because I think this has got to be the 3rd time that we've seen this proposal for a townhouse. I think, well, my background notes say in 2021, councillors raised strong objections to what were eventually withdrawn proposals to create 2 townhouses on this site. The committee then raised strong objections to this current application for a single townhouse, both in June 2023. You'll note this is a PA 23, so it's an old application. So you raised strong objections in 2023 in June, and then again in February this year. Key concerns, yeah, so this is the 4th time, in fact, isn't it? Our key concerns have related to the loss of privacy, light, and potentially outlook to the west-facing elevation of the Atlantic Lodge, this building here. And in fact, that should say east facing elevation of the Atlantic Lodge, never reached Ready Wheat yet. Yeah, so this side of the Atlantic Lodge, we were concerned that they were losing their light and outlook by plonking a townhouse right next door to them. The loss of privacy to windows on the Harvest, so these will be west-facing windows on the Harvest Moon apartments, which are over here on the other side of the building. Loss of privacy to the rear garden at Stone's Throw, which I think is this property here, if I remember rightly. And the loss of the current parking provision for the Atlantic Lodge will add to local parking pressures we have maintained on more than one occasion. So, as always, what's new? We've got 5 new drawings. We've got some mixed plans. We've got some visualisations. And there's a right to light study and a shadow study that have been provided. I'm going to start off with the new mixed plans, and we're going to compare those to the previous. Okay, there's a lot on here. What have I said to do with this? So you're just going to have to bear with me for a minute. Right, drawing 1. Which one is drawing 1? There we go. That's drawing 1, and that's drawing 1. Right, so this is the previous proposed site plan stroke ground floor plan that you're looking at here. The new drawing is this one. So it suggests a slight reduction in the footprint, particularly along the Atlantic Lodge side, I would say. It's sort of not going quite as close. And perhaps a small movement away from the Atlantic Lodge building. So it's a smaller footprint and it's slightly further away. Okay. Drawing 2 is the proposed first floor. Again, we'll sort of try and line these up as best I can. So the previous first floor, and then the proposed. So obviously we have a slightly smaller footprint. The WC and the stairwell at the back have been reduced, and they're now slightly further away from Atlantic Lodge. The building moves forwards at the expense of some of this first floor front terrace area. So you see that it had, at the first floor level, it had this quite large terrace that was going to be accessed at first floor level from this sort of kind of open plan habitable area. And that has been reduced. And then drawing 3, so the one on the right hand side there, it's sort of difficult to compare these two, really. It kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think perhaps if we have a look at the elevations, I think that you get the idea from, at least from the first 2 floors, that it's slightly further away and slightly smaller than it was. We'll have a look at the elevations.
In reality, when we're saying slightly, I mean, we can see there's a slight jump, but what is that in terms of meterage?
I don't think that we're given that measurement.
Oh, this is the bar scale there. On the
right
side of
so
the screen.
You are looking at
A metre? Is one of those a metre?
2. It's actually 2 meters. So
2 metres.
you might be looking at maybe between 2 and 4 meters.
Yes. Well, I better wait till you finish. But you will look at the visualisations and it gives you a clear
It's
yeah,
still,
with some visualisations to look at as well. Right, so in terms of the elevations, I wanted to find the south elevation first. That was the front one. And I'm going to make these slightly bigger again. Sorry, not that one. That's our south, isn't it? Our south elevation, proposed north. Proposed south, right, yeah. Sorry, there's so much on these plans. Right, can we compare these nice and easily? Let's see. Okay, so that's what we objected to, that drawing on the left there. That's what we objected to in February. So the new plan has, you can see the green dotted line, hopefully. Yep, that's coming up quite well. The green dotted line is supposed to represent the previous incarnation of this building, which in turn has a dotted line around it which denotes the previous application to that, which was withdrawn. So as you can see, we're gradually getting smaller. As you see, there's less scale and mass, and the height has come down. The ridge height has come down. There were some measurements. I made it just over 1.5 meters. That has come down. Okay. The east elevation. So this is the side that's facing the Harvest Moon Apartments. So that was the previous, and this is the current. So that's previous and current. Yeah, it just illustrates the reduced scale and mass. Really, there wasn't really anything in terms of windows on that side by the time we looked at the last application. It was just the proximity that we were concerned about. And then let's look at the north elevation. Sorry, let's just bring that over here a little bit.
Is that the rear?
That's the rear. So that's the just going back. That's sort of kind of facing over towards Stones Throw, and the car park beyond. My notes just kind of sort of suggest that compared to the original, this is, again, you can see the green line, so it's showing a reduced scale, mass and height. There's also a reduced level of fenestration on it as well, although they were going to put obscure glass in last time. There is a reduction. There is still the use of some obscure glass, but there's a lot less window glass on this current one. And then finally the west, wasn't it? Finally the west. Yes, that was the previous west. Again, much like the east one, it didn't have much in the way of windows. It's really the scale of mass, and as you can see, that scale of mass has been reduced. We've got some visualizations. So that's yeah, the proposed townhouse. That's it seen from the rear, so from kind of Stones Throw and sort of from the Atlantic Hotel kind of direction. I didn't quite get what this one was, what this was trying to show. It just says visualisation of existing houses, street view. I don't quite understand what this one was showing. I don't know if anybody, if that makes sense to anybody else.
So the new house is on the left, is it?
Well, I don't think it's there. I
No,
don't
it's
think
just what it looks like
that it's
now.
in the picture. I think
Yeah,
it
it's
just
very-
says visualisation of existing
very-
houses,
it's
street
very
view.
It's on the other side of the road.
It's very foreshortened, I think, is what he's trying to get over, is that it's already crushed together. Well,
Yeah,
the
you can
battery
get that.
is not that
Yeah.
close to the other buildings.
Yeah.
That's the battery you're looking at, which is up.
Yeah, so that's what he's trying to say.
there
is
is-
that it's already.
I'm not so keen on looking, well, right to light studies and shadow studies can be quite technical, probably one for the case officer rather than us. But there was a picture, an image on page 8 that I thought might be useful. Yeah, that was just to kind of gives you quite a nice, tidy sort of idea of the proximity. Obviously, the proposed single townhouse is this purple one. So, as we said before, loss of privacy and light to the Atlantic Lodge, loss of privacy to the Harvest Moon apartments, Stone's Throw and their garden. I think that's to do with the height, perhaps, of the building, looking down on their garden, and the loss of parking to the Atlantic Lodge have been our sort of key concerns previously. I'll throw it over to you.
Any comments, anybody? Well, I'll start. If we go to that visualisation, I mean, what it's doing is yeah, I mean, to me, well, first of all, they are still taking up the parking from the building next door that has 3 or 4 flats in. To me, that looks incredibly constricted. And I mean, yeah, it may be smaller than last time, but it's still.
I think it's space, isn't it?
It's still far too big for that area. So yes, he's gradually bringing it down, but I won't be supporting this.
Is it worth having a quick look at the?
I mean, it's
I'm just thinking in terms of amenity space as well.
its outlook though as well. They might have done a light study and things, but it is still casting a shadow, particularly for Atlantic next door on the corner. And it's its outlook. Those people that are going to be looking into a building wall, you know, it needs to be half that size to give it some space between that and its neighbour.
I think what they were trying to say in the other visualisation was, look, it's already crowded. But what he did there, that picture was very foreshortened. To me, this is trying to put the old court into a pint pot. I mean, there just isn't room for House of this building. Katie?
Morris.
No, sorry.
I 100% agree with you, Joanna. Absolutely 100%. I also won't be supporting this either. So I'm actually prepared to make a proposal of objection
Okay,
on all the ground.
if I just make my comment, then thank you. I'm not objecting to this. I do hear your points, Councillor Kenny, on the parking, and with regards to the outlook. I mean, you're currently looking at a car park. You're adding value in the area. I regret the loss of the Cornish wall at the front, but their design has them replacing it in a nice, tidy way that upgrades the whole area. And in a sense, we shouldn't be expecting residents to retain parking for the entire area. You know, if there are parking challenges in an area, that's a separate issue in itself. They've built parking into it. There would still be 2 or 3 parks in the front, so we'd lose about 2 parks essentially, and the whole area would be upgraded.
But there will be no parking
For Atlantic.
for the Atlantic Lodge.
And they've got at the moment.
So this
But that's
5
their
cars
problem.
there.
So I think from memory, I was thinking there were 6
Yeah.
separate apartments in Atlantic Lodge, something like that.
And the outlook from the upper windows at the moment, if Duncan pans out around from those pans out and it goes over there, they're not looking over. They overlook the car park and they're looking beyond. They have space. You know, they're going to now have then a wall with a few metres in front of that window. That is their outlook gone.
I mean, people don't have a right to a view, I think we're told.
Yeah, I know, but you
have
do
a right
have
to an
an
outlook.
Yes.
And I just think for me, it's just too big a building to go into. I mean, they are absolutely they're going to keep coming back, bringing it smaller. To me, it's the visualisation. I think, well, that is just, it's just cramming something that is too big into that space. So I will second Councillor Morris's.
One more comment, sorry, that I don't see solar panels, and so if they are going to keep coming back, can they add that? Thank you.
Well, first of all, can we have a show of hands? We've got a proposal to object. So we can have a show of hands for objection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, were the officer... Yeah, I seconded. Were the officer to approve this, then we would be saying, in that case, what you need to do is to sort out some solar panels, because the way they've got to... Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. If you would, though I'm not sure with a roof of that shape where you would actually put them, but it's interesting because the visualisation sort of says it's almost shading itself, isn't it? So have you got enough to object on that, Duncan?
Yeah, I think we're saying
So
that a lot
it
of
wasn't
the...
unanimous, but it was... That's the old one, so we
Yeah.
have to...
So there is only one. I mean, I don't know if you feel that the Harvest Moon apartments, if that has been addressed. I mean, shouldn't be a loss of privacy because there aren't really any windows there. I think. It seems to me that it's the Atlantic Lodge that, although they've tried. God, I mean, you look how close that is. How close must the previous one have been? It's practically, you could have shaken hands out the window, couldn't you?
To me, that's very negative to the street scene. But I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor, but I think we've now agreed that we will object, and we'll see what happens.
Oh, we need to propose.
Oh, yes, I'll propose an extension. And thank you very much for coming in, Councillor Morris.
Sorry, I have to leave, but duty calls are
I'll second that.
Show of hands for extending for an hour. Hopefully we won't need it. She always says that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
So we're now going on to, is it number 4, 12 Whipsnade Close, PA 24/07747, first floor extension and side extension with full thermal upgrade, whatever that might be, and internal remodelling in lieu of planning approval. So they got a planning approval in PA 21 and they want to change it. Is that roughly what that means?
Yeah, indeed. In lieu of planning approval, blah, blah. Right, yeah. So the background very quickly. In January 2022, following a largely positive pre-application advice, this committee gave their support to plans to replace the dwelling at 12 Whipsnade Close with a highly sustainable modern building. The officer has confirmed to me that the PA 21 permission is extant. It hasn't, because they'll often have like 3 years. It is extant. It is still live. Right. So my notes say Whipsnade Close off Alexandra Road. So this is actually a private road, and it's the last dwelling on the north side of the close. So it's this one here, quite a lot smaller than a lot of its neighbours, in fact. There is no street view. The Google car hasn't ever been down this road, unfortunately. Yeah. I don't know if I did actually. Yeah, I kind of gave us a little look down here. This is where we had several hot dog sellers and stuff during Boardmasters. All crowding around here and causing a complete nightmare for everybody who lived there. Anyway, unless they liked hot dogs, of course. Right, so this new application proposes an alternative to the demolition that was proposed or approved in 2021. We often see applications where they've said, oh, we'll make changes to a house and modernise it, but we'll keep the carcass of the house. This one's kind of gone the other way. It said, we'll demolish the house and start again, and now they've decided that they would like to keep the carcass, effectively. Who knows? So, location and block plans. Yes, who knows? Could be.
So is it completely different? Is it completely different to the approved plans?
No, it is no. We are looking at something that is similar. I'll just say the DNA statement says the current property is an older chalet bungalow, flat roof dormers, concrete tiles, rendered walls, sits on a steep plot with a driveway, a semi-detached garage and front and back gardens. Inside, the house is outdated and in need of modernisation. The new layout is designed to create a more spacious and functional open plan home by reconfiguring the interior and extending over the garage area and at first floor level. And it will remain as a Class C3 residential dwelling. Site plans. Let's just have a look at those. We've got an existing and a proposed. I don't know. I can't remember if there was anything interesting about that. That's your existing site plan. The proposed, in terms of the footprint, at ground floor level, it increases from 67 square metres, which is the existing, to around about 90 square metres. So occupying a similar place, but just it's kind of a little bit larger than the existing. The elevations. Oh, right, sorry, just give me a moment to open all these up. Right, okay, so that's your existing elevation, because obviously we don't have a street view, so that's the best view of what's there at the moment that we've got. This is what they got approval for. That's the north and east elevation, and the south. So the top drawing there, that was the street-facing elevation. You can see it's got terrace at first floor level. And it's kind of a little bridge into the back garden. The proposed elevations, looking at something similar but different, and perhaps on a slightly reduced scale as well. And just in terms of the scale and mass, I would say, although that's what they're looking. This is the current application. So again, very much in that kind of modern style. The 2021 scheme had a terrace at first floor level. The new proposal doesn't. I'll make this slightly larger actually. So that south elevation is the street-facing one. So you can see it's, although the footprint might be slightly larger, it looks to have sort of kind of less scale and mass about it. So that was what they had, what they've got permission for, street facing, and that's the new, that's the existing. The west facing elevation, this is the side that faces number 10 next door. I think that they've built further backwards, so there's no need for that bridge that we saw on that previous approved elevation. The north has, so this is the rear, has similar levels of fenestration to the the top drawing there is what was approved. Similar levels of fenestration, I would say, at the back, and the east is the one that's facing the grounds of the hotel, the Whipstillery Hotel. There wasn't, oh, hang on, where are we? There wasn't a huge amount. Well, actually, there were some quite large areas of glass, and there is a definite reduction there on that side that's facing the towards the hotel grounds. We have some visuals, and hopefully these will help a lot. I mean, I think in many ways, I think all of the impact on other properties, loss of privacy, etc., was all sort of dealt with when we looked at it, or when it was approved in 2021. So really, a lot of this is going to be just about the appearance. So
there's a separate building in the back behind it. Is that?
is referred to as an outbuilding, and we do have plans and elevations for the outbuilding.
Was that in the previous application?
I think that it was, but I think that this might be slightly larger. The previous permission benefited from an annex to the rear. We now have an outbuilding. It looks like a summer house. It may need an annex condition. But yes, no, in answer to your question, yeah, my notes say the previous permission did have an annex included, and we did insist on the annex condition. I don't think the floor plans are too crucial to this. Have they did previously have an annex. Yeah. They have permission for an annex. The extant permission has an annex, and this does look quite annexy to me, doesn't it? So I think it would be wrong of us not to insist on on the annex condition.
Really wondering why we would...
Could I just ask a question as well? You said about water. South West Water have said they're happy with the runoff destination. There is a comment of there is a comment of public support.
No, I'm doing it.
I'm just gonna.
There's no real reason why. Just a little. I think I'm just a bit shaky about the fact that they're using that there's such a change because they're not looking down the order.
It's fine if you want to injection our support, but I just...
And have you got renewable energy on the roof?
Yeah, well, it's buckets of it. Yes, it does. Buckets of it, and on the annex, I think.
Yeah, I think one of the
solar
aims
panels.
of this property is to really make quite a sort of modern, thermally, what is it called? Build first, kind of. No.
Yeah. I know what it does. I asked like...
Upgrade with solar array. Fantastic. Make one tiny comment, sorry. In the photo of the before and after, you can see that at the front, they're removing the hedge and they're just replacing it, and it's not clear, which is why I'd rather just make a comment about it. Yeah, there's a huge big habitat there for birds and whatnot, and it looks as though it's all being taken away, but it's not totally clear. So could we just comment that
Cool. Before we go any further, we'll just very quick here. It says there's a permeable drive,
Yeah.
so that's obviously an improvement.
Different.
And then this bit here says front garden.
sure, again,
But
if
it
you
doesn't
look at
say
the
anything about terracing.
if you look at
quite
the
right.
picture, it's quite clear. The two designs against each other, the current and planned.
So you
Yeah.
want as much possible green.
So could they consider retaining the hedge potentially? I mean, they could probably put in that wall and
grow a new
keep the
one, couldn't
hedge.
they?
Yeah.
Would you be happy if I said that we had some concern over the bio net gain?
No, no, please, that language is a whole different game. It's not relevant.
That's the policy that they will be applying to it, but
That's not relevant to residential upgrades like this. That's relevant to developments. In this case, we can make a specific comment on the loss of actual plants and foliage, which is specifically the hedge at the front, which,
I suspect that what you're seeing in the visualisation is after it's just been built, and there's a potential to regrow it.
and I'm asking the officer to please check that because it's not clear.
We just want to look at the visualisation, we would want more greenery.
I'd rather it was specific, if we may, about the loss of the hedge at the front and,
But they could replace that.
yes, and whether they're going to replace that, given it would be a loss of
I mean,
nature.
we can certainly say we regret the loss of the hedge, loss of the greenery, but as you rightly point out, it is a householder application, not a planning application.
Yeah.
So the bio net gain policy doesn't
No,
count.
let me,
so can't
I'll
actually,
send you the
so we
comment
can't
then,
actually
Duncan,
insist-
because there are comments in the
Sorry,
Cornwall
could I-
Climate
if I
Action
could
Plan
finish
about
what I'm
the
saying.
exact nature protection for householder applications. So I will look up the actual comment then.
But we would encourage as much greenery, preservation of the existing greenery.
Well, there's
or
a stronger statement in it, even for household, which says that you should be seeking to protect it. And I totally agree that it could be put back. I'm not objecting to that. I'm just saying it doesn't appear that they are going to put it back. And maybe they are, but it's not clear. So
Yes, so
I'll send you the actual comment, Duncan, from the
I
policy
think if you could put in a statement about
and CC
preserving
everybody.
as much of the greenery or replacing it or whatever. I mean, yes, what you're saying is you're looking at the artist's impression and he's put a palm tree in there, which would take some time to grow.
But it's not a habitat like a hedge is. That hedge is where birds may be nesting, for example.
But I don't think anyone's arguing here, it's just using the right sort of words.
But I would like
Thank you, Duncan. Yeah, yeah.
that's what I was trying to get to.
Irreplaceable habitats, for example.
Okay, so application 5, PA 24/07781, 29 St George's Road, proposed new room in roof dormer window and rear extension. This sort of is quite an understatement. Yeah, well, we'll see what we think. Wait for Duncan to dong up. Right, so the site plan then, we're on the corner site of St George's Road with St Mary's Road. It's the corner site. And if we have the existing floor plans, please, Duncan. So if we can just note the existing floor plans, the wall, so it's got a wall going along St Mary's Road. It's a solid wall and you can see that there's no windows. It's something we have to bear in mind in a minute. because there'll be windows appearing on that wall. And it's got, as along, the all of St George's Road has got the bay windows, and it's still got the little pointy roof bit at the top. Okay, so if we can then look at then the proposed floor plans, we're really extending out the back. We're putting windows in the wall on St Mary's Road, and the top floor is going to have a whole corner dormer. So the dormer is going to go right across the front, and the corner then is made out of windows. It's a huge change. And then we've got, which is the first time I've really come across this, I think, is that they've got the extension out the back, but they've got access onto the roof with the windows, with the skylights in the floor. And it's got two accesses here. It's got a door then from the bedroom, and it's going to have a door, an access door from this bedroom onto the flat roof extension at the back, which has got windows on it. So normally when you have skylights, you don't normally have access, as far as I'm normally aware, onto the flat roof. But I don't know about that. I don't know if it's toughened glass or whatever. The two windows here are effectively then really close over the road and look straight into the property on the other side on St Mary's Road. It's not that far at all. So they've got infill at the back, then they've got a new kitchen diner, which is open plan with windows onto St Mary's Road, flat roof with skylights. First floor is still 3 bedrooms with revamp of bathroom, big expansion of second floor, and with that bay window for the new dormer, large corner windows. So if we can have a then look at the street scene as it is at the moment. This is how it looks at the moment. So at the moment it's got a little dormer, and you can see that there's dormers going up the road. You can see here that there's no windows in the wall, and if you can just pan slightly down to the other side of St Mary's, there you see. So effectively what we're going to be looking at is that is actually quite a short distance. If we then have a look at the proposed elevations, it's all right, it's okay.
Can I just ask, is this the one where you come down St Michael's and it looks like it's been done in sort of rather nice red brick to make it look quite traditional? It's been painted. Is that the one we're talking about?
I think it is when you come across, and you do the little zigzag then to cut over to some more to get to Crantock Street. Yeah.
They have done quite a nice job of making it fit into the area.
Yeah. So if we go that, so if we look at the proposed elevations, you'll see that this is a very large dormer, flat roof dormer. The little pointy hat on the bay windows has gone, but then there's a precedent for that already up the road at number 141. So that's already been lost. But it's this big corner window and this box and it's quite a change. And then there's the terrace then where effectively they're on top of the roof. We've got the windows at the side, and then there's the terrace there on where they've got access to at the back here, which is then over the road, and so it's a big change. Yeah, in the floor. Yeah. So, and then this, yeah, with this balcony here, so there's the two doors from the two bedrooms out onto this balcony from the extension out on the road. And as I said, we've got the windows then in a wall which was solid, and the balcony on the. So if we have we got the if the elevation then from the side? Yes, that's the one. So this is when we're on St Mary's Road effectively. So there's the wraparound glass at the back. We've got the big balcony here, and then if we go back to the street view, if we can drive down St Mary's Road and then look back, and then turn around, you'll see that basically, so all this here will be infilled, that next door has this balconied area at the top, which is suddenly going to be having this balcony area here. So this is going to be all, this is going to be all infilled up to here. And then they're going to be, like where this window is going to be a door, and there's going to be a door in the infill here for the balcony that's on top, which is almost then going to be the same height as the balcony they've already got next door. Yeah, well, yeah. And then as I said, the window's going to be here and effectively looking straight over the road there. So, and I know there's dormers already around, but to have that as a statement on the corner, I think that's a huge change. It just seems like an over development, because I mean, of course, they're going to have stunning views up the coast. Effectively, they're going to be looking over everything else, but it's yeah. So and I think. I put in for St George's further up there, number 41 has got the dormer already. It's got a dormer going straight across up here, but it has discrete windows. But it's lost its pointy hat. That's what I wanted to say. How that got planning permission back in 2014, I don't know. But the president's already there for that. If we can can we just have a look at the roof plan, I think, Duncan? That's the roof plan. So that's then that's the flat roof for the dormer, and those were the skylights and things, and you can see then the extension going back. So it doesn't say what's going on at the back of next door here, really. And then they're going to have like that outdoor seating area, dining space in their backyard. So I'm interested to see what people think.
Can we see the street scene then? What's happening if you finally started to look at getting a conservation area for Newquay, which may include, because these houses were there before 1933, and I've asked them to include that because I think the bays are such a feature.
Yeah.
And I entirely agree. And I don't think that the fact that they've wrecked it already further up is sufficient excuse to try and do the same thing again.
I think it's such a huge change for that corner.
I don't mind about the little hats. I was thinking of the one we looked at in Esplanade Road where the little hat was there and he wasn't in it, but effectively this is going to dominate the bay.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost, I mean, are they changing the bay at all? I can't tell from this, but it's such a big
they're not.
dormer. Can
just
we go
listen.
back to look at the one that has already been demonstrated?
And it's a zinc dormer as well. It's not like all those I think are wooden clad, and
I know, I appreciate it's been done before, but it doesn't look.
all I was doing with that.
Don't make a right.
No. So the only thing I was saying, it was losing its hat. What I'm saying is it's lost its pointy roof.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, I think the dormer on that corner is too overbearing, and and he's huge, and just does make a
you
big.
make a proposal.
It is out of keeping with the street scene.
And it is, I mean, it's one of these streets that's actually in the CSAS guide as historic buildings.
Yeah, yeah,
They've
yeah,
got
yeah.
these beautiful, I mean, yes, all of them have been changed, but I think they're looking at the one that's there with its bright blue colour is an illustration of how not to do it.
I'm happy to propose an objection.
What about the, so I can see what's wrong with the front. What about the back? Are you worried about the back as well?
I'm worried about the back as well as being overdevelopment at the back. I'm worried about that balcony.
So
we're on the road and overlooking neighbours.
So it'll be dominating St Mary's as well, as well.
Yeah, and the windows in the wall.
So are you formally proposing objection?
Yes, I'm formally, yes.
Show of hands for objection on that basis?
The comment that I agree with the objection on the street character, which we do in the Newquay Neighbourhood Plan. People have asked us to seek to protect. And I don't agree with the overlooking concern, but I'm happy to agree with the objection because of the character concerns. Yeah, exactly. To me, the distance seems significant.
Proposing that from the street scene and things, that there's something odd that's not quite right there.
St Mary's doesn't have the same, it's not the same value as St George's Road. So I think that's something that needs, so we're definitely objecting to the front.
Yeah.
And on the back we'd like the officer to have a look at it on the effect on the street scene as well.
Yeah. We can't, looking at this rear elevation, we can't
tell
brilliantly tell the relationship between the two balconies, can we?
I can't, yes, because they haven't included the balcony next door. But just going from the window heights from the street scene and things, it's going to be really, really close and butting onto it. And of course the glass is very, I presume it's a glass balustrade. It's not, well, it doesn't look like it is. It looks like it's solid, but I think there needs some, a higher protection on the neighbour's side, maybe, and questioning about having that whole balcony with the skylights in the floor.
And is it proposing
that's a building.
Be building regs.
And I'm sure there must be a way of achieving that. So.
Yeah.
And I think we propose objection. Enough to justify an objection. Okay, thank you, Sarah, for that one.
Yeah.
Right.
We're off again.
So, is it you again?
No. Did they change numbers?
It's application 6. Are we now on 6?
It's 6. Did one disappear then? Because I had that as number 7 originally.
I think that you may be going back to the agenda for the meeting that was in Quora. Yeah, so there was some jump.
So this
there was
is
some
9
jumping
Godolphin
around.
Way,
Yes,
PA 24/07833. You're presenting it.
Yes, 9 Godolphin Way, single storey extension and adding of dormer to rear and demolishing chimneys. We should get through this quite quickly. Number 1 is location plan, please. So, that's okay. That's fine. So, you're not going to work, are you? So Godolphin Way is the turning opposite the Godolphin pub off Henry Road. No, you're not going to work, are you? No, I think
Next week we've got Godolphin.
Yeah, going to a care home. I thought that was quite interesting, actually. Thank you. Okay. And if we could just have a then look at the street view, please, Duncan. There we go. So little bungalow on Godolphin Way, quite unassuming. Existing site plan. There's the existing site plan. So you can see that these are the neighbours. This is the property, the bungalow, with its garage adjoining it. And then if we can have a look at the proposed site plan, you can see it's getting rid of its garage. It's going to be developing down the side here and a little bit out the back. So it goes from that to that.
Sort of matches next door though, doesn't
And
it?
it's putting a dormer then upstairs to extend upstairs. So if we look at then the existing elevations. Yeah, because we looked at site plan, existing floor plan. So do the Okay, so you can see at the moment then there's the garage which is going to go and be built along, and then they've got us upstairs. They've just got a room with a front dormer, which is just a plain bedroom, and then if proposed floor plans, you can see that they're going to be taking the chimneys out, they're redundant now, and developing then utility room and bedroom and going along the back here. And developing then with the dormer, it means that they can extend the bedroom size upstairs and put in a bathroom. So it goes to that. Okay. Yeah, they're putting a couple of triangle windows on the side of the front dormer, so they're sort of like updating the dormer. So you see there's going to be
Not very different, is it?
yeah, no, and it's not really looking over anything. So the chimneys go, new dormer, and improving the fenestra, or changing just the fenestration on it and putting these little triangle windows in at the
That's a
side.
rear-facing dormer, isn't it?
Yeah. But they're putting triangle windows on the front dormer as well to match. See on the front dormer there? Yeah. There's no new windows or anything looking over the neighbours or anything. And then having a new decking area. There isn't a drainage plan, I don't think. Yeah, no surface water strategy's been provided, and there's no renewable energy that's been proposed either, or the usual G2 things. So I'm happy to support propose support on this, but they need to put the drainage plan in, and they could
In
be.
a sense, is this a support or no objection? Just to be
You
consistent with
see,
what you said.
see, for me, support is like it's perfect. So yeah, no objection.
On the basis
So
that they haven't got the water plans in.
they haven't got the water.
Is there someone prepared to second that? John was seconded. Show of hands for no objection on that basis.
No objection. And a comment to ask that they could consider solar panels. I know it's quite a small.
Yeah, I've said that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
One of those roofs must face the right direction.
Yeah.
Right, so that's almost a support.
Yeah.
But I thought because we have the water thing, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so let me just get to the next one. It's not you again, is it?
No, I'm just doing the two. I hadn't realised, I'm sorry, Duncan, I hadn't looked at that more had been appeared just because we happened to have another week. Yeah, sorry.
Right, so we're now on to application 7, which is a non-material amendment, which it's the Whipsnade Hotel, isn't it? But I know this isn't a particularly popular application, the main application, but how serious is the non-material amendment?
I don't consider it too serious, to be honest.
Is this the one that Councillor Fitter said? Was it really a non-material amendment?
Yeah, and I'll come to that in a moment. I'll come to where it's concerned lay. So that's the site of the Whipsnade Hotel, which, back in June 2022, we were made aware that the applicants wish to demolish the hotel to facilitate construction of 10 new residential units, including 6 open market houses, as well as administration facilities, associated infrastructure to manage 4 detached holiday units, which would be retained. So you've got 6 open market houses and 4 holiday units going to appear on this site. A new business model for the Whipsnade Hotel, basically, which involves removing the Whipsnade Hotel. So this is the site plan. Now, this non-material amendment, because this has been given permission, this non-material amendment relates to the plots that have the yellow on them. So it's plots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 down here. The planning statement. I've looked at the approved site plan, and there's really no difference in layout, etc. like that. The planning statement says the approved development is located on a steeply sloped site with a southwesterly aspect that affords it stunning views across Porth Beach and down the coastline of Newquay, which I think we can sort of appreciate from this view here. And the views across to the beach are obviously quite nice, but they are, in the main, to be honest, most of these apartments are actually looking out in this direction over the sort of the rolling hills there and the greenery. So there is no changes to the site plan. The orientation or location, the footprint of the overall scheme remains the same. No changes to the positioning or side of the approved access roads. And no changes to the off-site area which is allocated for biodiversity, and that is this bit that exists along the bottom here. Okay. There are, let's have a look. Yes, indeed, and I did say to Councillor Fitter that you would be quite a fan of that. Although I believe that one of his electorate had expressed some concern at that, but we know that white render isn't such a great thing. So this is sort of kind of typical, I think, of the. I don't think we need to look at all of the plots, but this is sort of typical. It says in the description a reduction in height for 3 of the 5 plots. As you can see, it's I wouldn't say a cigarette paper's width, but it's a very minimal reduction. But what this one does show is. So the one in the blue is the one with the blue dotted line around it is what has been approved. If you look at that first floor window, it has a lower ground floor, a ground floor, and a first floor, and you'll see that you've gone from a Juliet balcony to a full width of the building balcony. And what they've done, and I'll show you this on the floor plans, is that they've reduced the internal space upstairs in order to create this inset balcony. Councillor Fitter was concerned that the addition of proper balconies in place of Juliet balconies may take this beyond being a non-material amendment. He alluded to this a little bit earlier. That was the point that he was making. What I want to show you now is the floor plan for plot 1. So let's see, can we get both of these on the screen at once? Yeah, so the approved floor plan is on the right hand side and the proposed on the left. And as I say, there's a Juliet balcony on the approved, and then what they've done is just as I say, they've reduced the internal space on that first floor and then been able then to create this inset balcony. So it's got the building's walls and the eaves over the top of it. Obviously that's very good in that it directs your view away from sort of side views. I couldn't see anywhere where these balconies were going to impact neighbouring properties. Certainly not existing near neighbours who are sort of just down the road from the hotel. But I think I'm trying to remember which ones they were now. I think that there's about 3 of these Juliet balconies for 3 of the plots are changed for these modest inset balconies.
Do they say why they're doing that? Is it windy or something like that? Is that why they think they need to be inset? Because it's unusual for people to do that.
I think that I have a feeling that if they decided to extend outwards, that they definitely wouldn't have been able to do that as a non-material amendment, and it might be that with the footprint staying the same, but the internal space being reduced, that they might be able to get. They might be able to do that, and I should think. I should think it is. Yeah. So largely the footprint remains the same. 3 of the 5.
Which of the 3 are they the ones on the open market, or are they
So they are.
let for holiday homes?
They are 1, 4, and 6. I think that they're the open market. Because I am kind of relying on my memory here, but I seem to remember that it was these ones down the bottom that were the holiday let ones, and that the ones that were going to be open market were more at the top. So I think it's the open market housing. Does that have any particular bearing?
I mean, yeah.
Interestingly, and I don't know why I don't know why it's only half of the plots, and obviously we only see the plans that we're given, and they're not going to give us plans for stuff that they're not making changes to. But interestingly, if I can find plot 2, which one am I looking for? Sorry, these are sometimes taking a moment to load. Number 2. This one, if we zoom in at the top here, you'll see this one already has a balcony. But what they've done is they've reduced the size of the balcony for these ones. So if I could show you, so the ones that had Juliet balconies have now got an inset balcony, and the ones that had balconies have now got you see, they had something of a 8.5 metre square balcony, and that is reduced down to a 5.5 metre square balcony. So for these ones, they've increased the habitable area, internal habitable area.
Is it a case of the total thing and they're having to... Is the total, are they worried that the total area then, with them being 3 floors, is going to go over that Is it no, it's not 1,000 square metres. Do you know what I mean, that they've got to then suddenly pay development,
Back to I think that they probably have triggered the section 106 already.
Yeah.
Because of the
Okay.
number of dwellings. We'll just say it's a small change to the site, and we don't think there's any harm from it. There's an air of familiarity about this, isn't
I
there?
think there was another one on Pentire Court that had a balcony on it. But next door, I think it was probably 7.
So yeah, so it's to the immediate left of the Esplanade, isn't it? Is that right? Sorry, immediate right of the Esplanade. So it's these buildings here, isn't it? So we'd come down.
We saw this one, yes.
No, it wasn't this one. I think it was Mrs. Collins who did the last one.
So we had there is one comment. It is public support. Yeah, the other one did sort of ruffle people's feathers a little bit, much like yeah, this is another one that was withdrawn because of a verification issue, but we needn't bother ourselves with minutiae like that. We've got a block plan showing the just showing where we are. So it's very much in the middle there, and some existing and proposed elevations.
The one before was 7 Pentire Court. So literally it was the one on the end. This is the one next door.
Yeah, so this is, I think this is a useful drawing. And I'll just bring that one up here as well. So yeah, so if you look at the existing, if you look at the one in the middle there, you see it's got a balcony upstairs, that middle sort of terrace, but there's not a balcony at the first floor level. And lo and behold, this is what they're looking to apply for, to add a balcony onto there. There are first floor balconies along here, and I think we have, yeah, and there we go. We have a 3D elevation. So yeah, they're putting this balcony in here. That is the application in its entirety.
A problem with this? I think precedent's been set. I propose support. Show of hands for support.
Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Duncan. Is that the last of the applications?
Last of the planning, yep.
Yep. So, have we changed our terms of reference at all?
We have not.
Right. The Ports Association, I don't think we've got anything from the working parties. Financial statements. Do we have to do a budget for the coming year? Or is that going to be done next time?
Yeah, we certainly don't have to do that now. And given that the agenda for our next meeting is horrific, I'm going to see if we can just look at budget stuff on the meeting that's scheduled for the 20th.
But all we would actually be doing is continuing with a sum that's to pay for the new neighbourhood plan.
I believe so, yeah.
So-
I believe so. And we were having a conversation about whether it was one figure or another. I will find
check the
out,
figure.
or I will double check that.
I think it's 5.
I thought it was as well, and then I found something that said it was half that figure.
Can we suggest it's 5,000 and they can come back and tell us we're only going to have 2.5?
Yeah.
Can we do that now?
No. Let's because yeah, I need to get the wording. I need to do it
You
properly.
need some facts.
And we can't just add it to the. I'm afraid we can't just throw it into the agenda at the last minute.
Okay, fair enough. I just said financial statement. Might be able to do it. Is there any other correspondence? We haven't spent anything, I take it.
No purchases made. No payments to authorise, and we have no other correspondence.
Any items for information and discussion or any? I don't have any.
I was just going to very quickly go through the list of planning decisions.
I think the farmhouse
Well,
got thrown.
Yeah. In fact, before we do weekly planning decisions, just in case you're not aware, Cornwall Council have received an application to re-discharge condition 2 of the cliff stability condition associated with the Paradise Cove Hotel at Alexandra Road. This will be included as a decision item on the agenda for our next meeting. Okay, so we have
judge the issue until
not only have we got a lot of applications for the next one, we've got some real clonking big ones, and that is one of them, obviously. Trewinda, 17 Elliott Gardens. At our last meeting, it's reported that this application had been called in by Councillor Gardner. You remember it's a guest house being turned into an HMO. And Councillor Gardner had called it in, so it would be determined at the Central Sub-Area Planning Committee. We've now been told that the application is subject to the mandatory biodiversity net gain policy, because it is a planning permission, as per the Climate Emergency DPD. We will therefore be reconsulted, if necessary, once the required information has been submitted. So the whole thing has just fallen apart, because I think the officer may not have realised that. I think somebody senior might have said, and you've got the BNG stuff, and she went, I'm really surprised.
I'm surprised. Because they made it smaller than last time. So.
Yeah.
Well, happily look at it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that going to be next time?
Bizarre. No, I've no idea. There's no time frame for that. It'll be whenever the applicants get that in. I don't know if it's particularly subject to it, because they're turning that front garden into parking. So I don't know if that's sort of the reason.
That was our concern, wasn't it?
That was something that we had noticed, that there were a couple of plants going to go, but it's not exactly a green front garden anyway.
No, it was very neglected, wasn't it?
I'm sure we did mention it because we tend to mention those.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And the Proud Park one.
Everybody for attending tonight. It was circumstances beyond our control last time. Hopefully everyone will be able to attend to this really odd one next time. I think it's got some really interesting stuff on it.
It's too much. There's over we're on 14 applications so far.
Yeah, including one next door to Duncan.
I think we have to be extremely disciplined with timekeeping.
Yes, none of this waffling on that we did. It doesn't matter how many applications.
Yeah, and we will have members of the public attending as well.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Because they can and they're interested in their application.
Which particular application are they coming from?
My brain left the building several minutes ago, John. I couldn't tell you. This is a complete nightmare, having to do an extraordinary and then a huge application like this, and it's.
Anyway, I can no longer feel smug when they come round and tell us that some of the other meetings have been in quorum, because we managed to be in quorum. but there you go. We always reschedule a meeting. So